pull your voice away from your mic and then do it again.
All right. I'll put my hand over my mouth too, and like maybe that'll help.
Yeah. No, it's just so funny. It just goes quiet, and then I just hear little like barks.
Dang it.
All right, we are back. Episode 10 of the Digital C podcast. This is the milestone for us, and I apologize that we've been away for a little bit longer than usual. I'm not sure if we have a very set upload schedule. We kind of just do it when we can, but we are a little bit later. And you know what? As we're recording, I'm not even sure when I'm going to get this actually edited and uploaded. So we'll see. I'm going to do the best that I can, but I've just had too much going on business-wise. And I apologize for that. And yes, that is, and I think you should leave quote. Sorry, Ryan.
Yeah.
No, but I have had a lot going on business-wise, and I have just, I've been away from the podcast for a little bit. But thank you for your patience. Ryan, thank you for your patience. I appreciate it.
Yep, absolutely. I'm very patient. I'm a patient guy. Luckily, 2026 is just an absolute monstrosity of a year for games so far, and I have no hope in keeping up with all of the releases and everything that's coming out. But we've been eating good so far. Oh, goodness.
Yeah, I am about 30 hours into Crimson Desert, and that's the big one I've played this year. How about you?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what I've played so far. I've got 70 plus hours into Crimson Desert. I don't think I will beat this game until the end of the year because I'm just going to have to put it on hold as other games come out. It is an insanely big game. I don't know if I've ever played a game so big before.
Yeah.
Great problem to have though. It's not in a bad way. It's just there's so much content that I'm I don't know I hope I finish this by the end of the year. I have to.
I'm going to push you to because I'm going to want to record about this game pretty soon after I beat it, I think. I've got a lot to say about this game. Do you know how I think I heard some reviewers say this about the game and it was so accurate. You know how one of the things you like to say about games is it's as wide as an ocean, deep as a puddle?
Mm-hmm.
This game is as wide as a puddle and deep as an ocean. I thought that I could just, when I first started playing it, I thought that I could hop over it like a puddle, and then I fell into it, and now I'm 100 feet down, and I can't see light anymore, and I don't know when I'm going to get out of it. It's kind of how I feel.
Yeah.
In both a good way and a bad way. This game is strange. It's a really strange game, and I'm really excited to talk to you about it.
Yeah. And to make things even weirder, the developers, I'm convinced, are being held hostage somewhere in an office, being forced to make the game better like every 3 days. Because every time I boot the game back up, there's like some massive update that fixes basically like the next batch of problems that people have been complaining about and just make the game better. And I've never seen anything quite like it ever. So I am concerned for their health. I hope that Pearl Abyss and the developers over there get to see their families sometimes and get to eat some food, because I've never ever seen updates fly in like this to change things and fix things, and just be so open to criticism from the players. So cheers to those guys.
Yeah, and you know, I was gonna save this until our conversation, but I think I'm gonna bring it up right now just to kind of plant the seed, and then we can kind of revisit this once we have our true Crimson Desert talk. But I'm going into this without any evidence or doing any research, but I have a theory that this game is being developed while heavily depending on AI, even if the developers aren't admitting it outright. This game to me feels so much like what we can expect out of games 10 years from now that are almost completely AI developed. Do you have any reaction to that?
Well, I will say that it wasn't long ago that some players found some AI placeholder content, which was just pictures and picture frames in the game world, so not a huge deal.
Yeah. And I think a lot of developers do that.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of developers do this. It's certainly not the first game to get caught red-handed, quote unquote, with AI placeholder content.
Yeah.
But from what I know about this game was in development for 7 years. It was originally supposed to be an MMO, and just from that, I can see maybe a counter argument towards a heavy emphasis on AI. But I know what you mean, and I could go into why I feel that way. But yeah, it might be best to save it for the main
And I think
episode.
we should. I just wanted to kind of plant that seed, but I want to circle back just a little bit and tighten up my statement. I don't think necessarily, I'm not saying this game was made with AI. I'm not necessarily saying that, but I'm saying it feels like it was. You know what I mean? I don't think that necessarily the developers have done anything disingenuous here, because I do think that they've developed most, if not all of it, with their own two hands. But I think that this game feels like what games are going to feel like when AI is developing them. And we know that that's going to be our reality in the pretty near future, if not like the next couple of years. So
Yeah.
it's just an interesting feeling that I had that I thought I'd send out there to you and see if you can kind of like, meditate on that as you're playing it. And we can maybe circle back to that when we have our Crimson Desert conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll nurture that seed for the next God knows how many hours we're gonna sink into Crimson Desert before rolling credit.
Yeah, God.
But other games that I played this year, Resident Evil Requiem,
Yeah.
got to play that, and I've also been kind of on a co-op couch bender, not bender, but we've been knocking out games. Myself and my girlfriend, we finally rolled credits on Split Fiction. We played Reanimal, and we also went back a ways and played Unravel 2.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So a lot of fun couch co-op experiences there. Pokemon Pokopia. Uh, 2026 is just a year of just really, really large experiences. I'm gonna do my best to make it through all of them. I think I have 20 or 30 hours into Pokopia, and I could see myself putting in 100 hours total easy. So I'm a little nervous to try and see that one through, just because it's as much time as you want to put into it. It's kind of one of those games.
Yeah.
But the problem is the gameplay loop's super addictive, and the game is just awesome. It's everything. I'm actually surprised that Nintendo allowed this game to come out, only because it kicks Animal Crossing's ass so hard that you just wonder what they're going to do for the next Animal Crossing game. I feel like this game makes Animal Crossing irrelevant, but
The Animal Crossing has such a cult following. There's people that just play Animal Crossing. That's the only video game they've
true.
ever played, and only video game they ever will play, you know?
Yep. And some people just don't care about really poorly designed systems, like only being able to create one item at a time, or
Yeah.
I don't know. It's that game's so repetitive. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
It is. It is. I love New Horizons just because of the time that it came out. You know, it came out when the world needed something like that the most, and the soundtrack will always remind me of Lockdown, basically.
Yeah.
And I know, a little quick side note. I'm not sure if anybody out there knows who Faye Webster is, but I'm gonna blank the name of her album that came out around that same time. But if you look it up, you'll be able to see it. And I know that one of her big influences for the sound of that album was Animal Crossing New Horizons, because she was playing it a lot during lockdown as well. And it has that really airy, kind of almost island vibe to it without being too cliche. Like, it really just taking her normal kind of indie songwriter sound and giving it kind of a Animal Crossing New Horizons spin. And it was a really, really great album. So you guys should go check that out. But
Does the album sound like this?
wait, say that again, because you cut out.
Oh, darn it.
Wait, hold on. Okay, hold on. I think our mics cancel out loud songs or loud sounds.
Yeah.
So
I'll just sing it. Na 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 na.
There
It's
we
supposed to
go,
be like
there
that
we go.
muffled trumpet, that muffled
yeah.
yeah, you know.
I love that. I love that sound.
I tried really hard.
What were we even talking about? Faye Webster, Animal Crossing.
Uh,
Yeah,
this-
you're talking about
Pokopia.
Pokopia. Yeah.
Yeah, was the root. Yeah.
I've got about like 5 hours into Pokopia, and I really want to get back into it. It's coming to us at a very Pokemon time in our life, because me and you and Luna recently started a Fire Red Leaf Green playthrough on Switch 2, because it recently came out for Switch 2. So we've been like kind of hanging out and doing this really fun thing that we do sometimes, which is where we put on the old anime Pokemon while playing Pokemon. It's one of
Yep.
my, out of all the game days that we do, we get together and have our game days, Pokemon is one of my favorites. It's just so relaxing. We get to lay out on the couch, we're chilling. It's very nostalgic for us because it's, the game and the vibe of our childhood. It is just top-notch vibes, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. I've been watching Pokemon videos on YouTube as I go to sleep. I've been thinking about like my builds. I've been thinking about the other Pokemon games I want to play and introduce Luna to because this is her first Pokemon playthrough, and we have Pokopia to kind of scratch that itch because usually when we're playing a Pokemon game, kind of co-op where we're all trading Pokemon and stuff, we won't play it without each other around for the most part. So
Right.
it's been a lot of Pokemon this year, and it's been making me pretty happy.
Uh, Gotta catch them all. Yeah, and it's so great. You have like a million episodes that have already been created for the anime, and you can just
Yeah,
you just watch like 1,000 episodes in the background while we game it out.
exactly.
And Wind and Waves comes out next year, I think, and I believe this will be the biggest gap in between mainline Pokemon games by a landslide. I think it'll be something like 3 or 4 years when usually they do a Pokemon release every other year. And the game actually looks like they're trying a little bit, which is weird because
Yeah,
mainline Pokemon games don't try very hard because they have to be busted out so fast. And Game Freak is just kind of, hasn't evolved a whole lot.
yeah.
But yeah,
Unfortunately,
super, super excited for next year, assuming the game doesn't get delayed. Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
yeah. And you know what? Isn't Pokopia the highest rated Pokemon game of all time on Metacritic?
It is, and it's a spin-off game. It's not even a
Yeah.
mainline game.
So wouldn't it be crazy if Wind and Waves comes out and it like is that good on Metacritic? Like it gets that high of a rating? That would be shocking. But the footage looks pretty good. I'm extremely, extremely skeptical of modern Pokemon releases, so
Yeah.
I'm not getting my hopes up, but I am tentatively curious, I will say.
Yeah, Scarlet and Violet were, I would just say, an embarrassment, I think, for the brand. And I really hope that Wind and Waves can right the ship and turn things around because that was bad. It was awful. I was fortunate enough to play it on the Yuzu emulator at the time with some mods, so it was a good experience for me. But even on Switch 2, I would argue the emulated experience is still superior despite the gains on Switch 2. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyways, that's enough catching up because we're here to talk about some specific games. Two games that I think about a lot since I've played them, and one of them you finished recently, which is the bigger one that I want to talk about, which is 1000xResist.
Is it 1000xResist or is it 1000xResist? I know we've talked about this off air.
No, we talked about this we covered this briefly in our games that made us feel something in 2025 episode.
You're right. You're right. I think we did.
I say 1000xResist because I've never heard 1000xResist be said in the dialogue of the game, and I think 1000xResist is dumb. So I just say 1000xResist because that sounds cooler to me. But
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's accurate. Do you have a strong opinion one way or the other?
Yeah, no, I'm in full support of this. It's kind of like when Pokemon Arceus, or there's like two ways of pronouncing Pokemon Arceus, and one was right and one was wrong, but the wrong one was cooler sounding. Anyways, it reminds whatever sounds the best is how I'm going to pronounce it, and I'm not going to say Dead Mao 5, so it's kind of one of those things. I'm going to say I don't care what's correct. I'm going to say what sounds cool.
Well, it's like, do we just say 1000 resist? Because like when Ball Pit came out last year, we didn't say Ball X Pit. We just said Ball Pit,
Sure.
but it's spelled Ball X Pit. So, but I think 1000 resist sounds weird. And I think that 1000 times resist is in theme with what the story is telling us to a certain extent, right?
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I think 1000 times resist is a really cool name for a game. But I think if you were to spell it out 1000 and then the word times and then resist, it wouldn't come across that great visually. But I think 1000xResist looks cool visually, and 1000 times resist sounds cool audibly. So that's my logic. Developers, if you're listening, I'm sorry if that's not the way you wanted it to be, but that's the way that it is in my head. So
yeah, Sunset Visitor. We're trying. We're trying
over developer here.
Yeah.
Really quick, Sunset Visitor is an indie developer, right?
I believe so. Yes. And I think I believe 1000 times resist was their first game as a developer. They have another game that was announced called Prove You're Human, and it looks very, very cool, and I'm very excited to see that when it comes out. And it definitely looks like a bit of a fidelity jump as far as graphics goes. They just have a trailer out, so I'm not really sure what the game's going to look like. But yeah, I'm excited to see what these developers have in store for us moving forward for sure.
Interesting.
Looks like Black Tabby Publishing was the publisher for. Oh wait, no, that's for Prove You're Human. I wonder if they're also the ones for 1000 Time. Let's see. I guess it doesn't matter, but yeah, I believe they're an indie team.
Very interesting. Okay, Ryan, you got a score?
For 1000 Times?
Yeah. Are we
Mm,
doing scores?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, is there a time where we've talked about a game that we've both completed and didn't give scores?
I think no, not that we've both completed. Just the games that made us feel something episode is the only time I could say we did something like that. Let me ask you this: do you think of us as a video game review podcast?
Ooh.
Because like I know that pretty much the only thing we've done on this podcast is talk about games and give them a score. But I'm not sure. I've never really thought of us as a video game review podcast. I don't know why in my brain that hasn't computed till just now. But for me, it's just
Yeah.
I'm talking about games with my mate, you know?
Yeah. And I don't know if that's also from our beginning roots over at Magnetic. We didn't have review scores over there as well. It was just, you read what we had to say and that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I don't know, kind of, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. I've never really thought of it now that you bring it up.
Weird. It's weird, right?
Yeah. Well, you know what? We probably aren't, because I think an episode or two ago I was like, yeah, I'm going to give this game an 8.8. And you're like, wait, aren't we doing the 20-point scale? I'm like, damn it, you're right. So and maybe that was the.
Well, it doesn't mean we're not reviewing games. We just hadn't decided on our point scale yet.
Oh, no, we did, but I was like, the point scale was.
It was made up.
I guess was, yeah. Anyways. Yeah, damn it. I guess I didn't really think of it that much, but it's more of a way to quickly let people know what we think about a game before we really spill our guts on why the score is the way that it is.
I feel like you just described reviewing.
So yes, now that we're talking it out, yes.
Well, I think that okay, so this is our 10th episode, and I think that for anything like this, 10 episodes is kind of the trial period just to see what's going on. Now, I don't think that we're going to stop doing this podcast. I don't think that we're going to change directions on it at all. But I think that this podcast is something where me and you talk about video games and digital media and kind of what's on our mind, right? We're wading through the digital sea together is kind of what my view of it is. And if we ever kind of, I could see this podcast devolving from a review base to more of a, we're just talking about video games more abstractly. And I would be okay with that. So I don't want to limit us or corner us into like a video game review podcast. It just happens to be that this has kind of been our format and it works and it's fun. And that's just what we're doing right now, you know?
Yeah. I do like the aspect of putting a number on something, because it usually forces unique conversation and fun conversation.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I like it too.
Yeah, that was horribly worded. But yeah, it forces a lot of good conversation when we stick a number to something and you go, are you like, really? Like that's what you think? And so, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, do you have a score for 1000 Times?
Yeah, I do. You want me to go first?
Yeah, because I need to think about mine. So just for context for the listeners, I have not played this game. I played this game in January of 2025, and we're recording in the middle of April of 2026. So I am about a year and 3 months out of playing it. And Ryan beat this game, 2 months ago?
I beat it in January, I believe.
Okay.
Like the very beginning of the year. So it's been long enough that I've forgot more than I should.
Yeah, but we'll just talk about the vibes a little bit, I guess. And I have a lot to say about this game, I think. Not as much as a game like, I don't know, Clair Obscur or Death Stranding 2, but I have a decent amount to say about it. So I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on it as well. Why don't you give me your score and I will lock in mine. Hold on. Wait, actually, hold on. I want to make sure I lock in mine before I hear yours so it doesn't influence me.
Okay.
Okay, I've got mine locked in. You go for it.
I'm going to give 1000 Times Resist an 8.5 out of 10.
Nice. That's pretty good.
Pretty good.
I give 1000 Times Resist a 7.5. But
dang, pretty good.
That's pretty good. And I was really close to giving it an 8. And I think if I had just come off this game, I probably would have given it an 8, but I think that the distance of time has, well, when I think back on my time playing 1000 Times Resist, I remember being very emotionally invested. I remember loving the atmosphere and the vibes. I remember also running around not knowing which direction I need to be going. I remember pretty repetitive gameplay, and that's what brings it down a little bit for me. But everything else is great, and this game has a lot of very unexpected directions it takes you in, and that's a unique thing in media these days.
The more I'm thinking about a couple things, I'm like, gosh, should I have given it an 8? I'll stick with an 8.5. Yeah, this one's super interesting. It certainly takes a lot of inspiration from a lot of other games and still is able to make something of its own, which I think is super important. I would
Yeah.
say the skeleton of this game is without a doubt near Automata in a lot of ways, but at the same time, it's almost kind of like a period piece. It feels very much like it was based off of real events that were going on during its development.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the development timeline of this game was. I'm not sure when the developers started or what that looked like, but it very much felt like something that was based around the pandemic in the early 2020s, and definitely kind of seemed to have some inspiration from the Hong Kong protests that were going on and kind of how that stuff ended up.
Yep. Yep.
But then it has a lot of unique aspects to it where you have this sunburst kind of filter that gets put over the game in various parts, whether that's the duality of changing the world back and forth between, I don't know, timelines. I don't know if timelines is the
It's like
right word,
realities.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Timelines.
realities or
Yeah.
timelines. You've got some, not that concept's unique because it's been done a bajillion times,
Hmm.
but it certainly does it in its own way that feels fresh. And yeah, it's a walking simulator through and through. It's all about the narrative, and when it does try and kind of flesh out things and kind of get off the beaten path, that's probably when the game's at its weakest. I'm thinking of some of the moments where you're like grappling on to these little diamond object things in the sky, like all over
Yep.
the place to like
That's exactly what I was thinking of too when you said that.
like it's when it tries to get out of these nuanced conversations with individuals, and when it gets away from the story and kind of has you do those things. I think that's where the game stumbles and it's at its weakest for sure, but luckily these moments are usually spaced out enough to the point where it's not too much of a drag.
Yeah.
And I just want to get most of the negatives out of the way really quick, or like the other negative rather that I had in my head, which is the layout of the main hub world.
Oh my
That
God. Yes.
I like, in some ways I was thinking that it was intended to be obtuse or unintuitive, but by the time you finish the game, you still can't like remember how to get places. And you've been like playing the game for 15 hours or whatever, and you
Yes.
still are like, I have no idea how to get to this one spot, and I've done it before, but it's so the layout is so nonsensical that it really slows things down. And again, I feel like every episode we talk about it, but time wasters, man. Oh, this is just like, you guys designed this so poorly. It's such a waste of everyone's time to slowly run about this environment that was just very poorly laid out. And you know what? If there's some intention behind that, and the symbolism or whatever just whizzed over my head, then shame on me. But I'm not sure what it was, if that was the intent. So
Yeah. I mean, to play devil's advocate, and trust me, I completely agree with you. I hate the layout, and the amount of times I found myself accidentally walking in circles was infuriating, especially because, yes, this game was like a 9-hour game that I probably put 14 hours into unnecessarily because I just kept running around trying to find stuff. One thing that level design does do for you, though, is it gives you the feeling that you're in this weirdly crafted underground, almost Fallout shelter, which I think is what this is, right? Or what it's supposed to be.
right, yeah, you are the clone of what's left of humanity as this virus and pandemic takes over the world topside and wipes everything out. And yeah, you are the specimen in the vault. You are the specimen underground that is the only semblance of humanity that's realistically
Yeah.
left in this world.
Yeah. Now, really quick, is it, because I know that there is a virus and a pandemic that's happening. And I know that, I mean, man, this game nails the vibe of early COVID during the flashbacks.
Mm-hmm.
But there was also these aliens that have come to Earth, right? Or these like godlike angel figures who have appeared. And what
Yeah.
do they have to do with the pandemic? Did they bring on the pandemic? I can't remember because it's been a while since I played.
You know what? I'm right there with you. I
Okay.
can't quite remember if it was, yeah, what they brought with them that caused all of this. But yeah, I remember this almost Mass Effect Reaper-esque kind of higher being presence that gets brought.
But there's somehow one thing I loved about this game is that it made their presence extremely unsettling because like ostensibly these figures are just these big glowing humanoid statues basically, and they just kind of sit there. But these figures have a very, very dark and ominous presence and they kind of appear. Are they in like a T frame? Are they in a T frame pose? You know what I mean? I want to see a picture of these things. And walk through this playthrough. Yeah, they're in like a. You know what I mean?
So, yeah, sorry, I'm scrubbing
Yeah, me too. Me too.
to try and remember what they look like here.
But the whole game is in like this anime style, and these big light, like they're basically just humanoids made of neon light, are just huge and standing there. But the game does a really good job of making you feel scared of these things that are seemingly innocuous, but you feel in your bones that it's just evil.
Damn, they're big.
Yeah, they're huge. Uh, I think they maybe don't have heads, or their heads are like the. Oh yeah, I see it. Okay, here we go.
I know, like there's one section of the game where they're really prominent, and I'm trying to like figure out where that was.
Yeah,
Can't remember.
and like everyone's frozen running away from it and they're in the water. Yeah. So it's this interesting duality between alien figures have descended from the heavens and also there's a pandemic happening. And one is very grounded in reality and the other is very fantastical, but the game does a good job of mixing the two thematically. And another huge theme of this game is, like racism and being an immigrant and what that feels like in what it feels like to look different in a predominantly white society and be from a different culture. And I thought that was like how one walking simulator by an indie developer can like intertwine all these narratives to somehow be cohesive and leave you with a message is pretty impressive to me.
Yeah, this there's so many different directions and so many different themes this game hits on. I mean, it's you've got the pandemic and you have like you talked about like racism and then there's shoot what do they call it? Like generational trauma is definitely a
Yeah.
part of this and like acceptance and being accepted and there's I don't know there's so many different things that are going on and like if you were to single out all the components that this game is composed of it just doesn't really seem like it would end up harmonizing as well as it ends up doing.
Hmm.
And yeah, I just I really wish I would have recapped or replayed this right before our conversation because I feel like I have so many things to say about the game, but I can't remember them.
Yeah. I kind of feel the same way, but we're just gonna roll with it. It's it,
Yeah,
it's fun to, rehash some of the what am I trying to say? This is a game that deserves all of your attention, and both of us gave it all of our attention, but we have so much to play and so much to do in our lives that we can't just go back and do a quick replay, of a 14-hour
right.
experience when we need to put more hours into, 14 hours is like 3 weekends of gaming for me. So, but do you have any like memorable moments in this game that you want to talk about? Anything that really shines through that you want to just get off your chest? I have a couple that I want to go through. So,
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of highlight moments that you have with the. I don't know if they're what are they like the sisters. So you've got the fixer, and you've got the watcher, and you've got the knower, and you have all these different variants of the same, or all these different cloned variants that have these jobs.
and but they get assigned jobs. They all
Yeah,
spawn as as the clone, and then eventually you get assigned. Yeah, what your role's going to be based on what the subtle differences in your personality or something like that.
yeah, and the moments that you have with the different variants of the clones. You know, obviously the first one that comes up in the game is what happens with Fixer.
Yeah,
And as you're playing as Watcher, you have this moment where you're like, "Dang, am I on the right side of history here?"
yeah,
When it comes to how these events are unfolding, and I mean, basically your occupation as the player is just the narc. You're like, I'm gonna go
yeah,
around and like spy on everyone and report back, and that, and then who is it, principal or
yeah.
trying to think of
Principal, and then there's knower,
yeah,
and
principal's red, right?
yeah, knower's purple.
Yeah, and you basically just tattle on everybody while reporting back to principal, and like everyone's affected by what you decide to report on. And yeah, like right off the get go, you kind of see the climax. The very beginning of the game is pretty much a huge focal point and a big climax moment that you have no idea like why is this happening? Like I don't get this. As at the very beginning of the game, you stab who I believe is the All Mother or the clone that wears the all black outfit right at the very very beginning, and then like a few hours in, you're basically getting Fixer killed, and that's pretty fucked up.
Yeah,
And then you kind of like start questioning things,
right.
and then the game gets more and more in the weeds as you go. What's the medic's name? The pink one?
Ooh, yeah. What is the medic's name?
Healer, I think
Yeah.
is her name. Like Healer, like really does not like you,
Hmm.
and kind of views you as a piece of shit. And Knower is kind of like somewhere in between. And Principal only likes you because you're playing teacher's pet, but you're kind of holding up the structure of society as everyone kind of fulfills their roles. But some of the biggest moments are without a doubt your interaction between these folks. I think the one of the biggest like goosebump, make your hair stand up moments is when I think it's I'm not sure if it's Watcher who does this, but you try and create your own clone as like a gift to give Principal, and it's like a really fucked up Jow variant that is just like
Yeah.
horrifying, and you're absolutely drugged through the mud for doing just what's an innocent, I don't know, just like an innocent action. You're trying to do something nice, but and it's defying or like a spit in the face to creation. In a way,
Yeah.
it's defying the norms, and it's something that isn't perfect and is ugly and is awful, and so yeah, like the Jow moment is definitely like a huge standout moment in the game for me, where you're just like, damn, yeah, like things are fucked up.
Yeah. And I mean,
Sorry, I just kind of like rambled like about all sorts of stuff just now. So that
that's kind of what
you
this
know,
game does, though, right? Like, there's, like we just said before, there's so many themes that are explored. And one of the biggest ones is resisting oppression, right? You said it before with like the Hong Kong protests. And anybody in China listening to this, you know very well that we have our own resistance of oppression we need to deal with in the United States right now as well, and everywhere in the world, seemingly, especially since the pandemic. It seems like oppression has just
yeah,
sort of taken a foothold in the way that it felt like was being beaten back before. I don't know, 2016 or 2020. But this game just oozes that feeling or that theme of worshiping the All Mother, right? Which is what everybody in the underground society are doing. All these clones of the All Mother essentially are worshiping her blindly, finding out there may be cracks in the story that the All Mother has told you about who she is and where her past is or where she came from and why she's the one who's living why she was the last human living after this pandemic had wiped out everybody else, and then realizing that those lies, the story you're told of the All Mother, is a sort of just an amalgamation of a bunch of lies that she wanted you to believe to continue worshiping her, finding the cracks in that story, and becoming essentially the leader of this revolution that happens. And the irony is that Watcher is the narc who turns into basically a revolutionary idea, like and not only a revolutionary, but like an idol among all the other sisters that live in this underground society. One of my favorite moments was when you'll have to help me here, Ryan, and I'm not sure if you can, but you start out as Watcher, and then something happens, and I think the original Watcher you're playing as dies, right? And then the next chapter comes in, and you're not the same Watcher anymore. You're a different Watcher who's, instead of being on the lower levels of the underground city, you spawn in like the upper levels, and you're like in a city style level. I feel crazy talking about this. I don't know how to describe it, but do you know what I mean? It's when you spawn in like the city area, and you're kind of running around the city doing side quests, and there's people like
yeah,
doing
no,
street art. You know what I'm talking about?
yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about, and you run. You're doing a bunch of like fetch quests for a bartender, and you're getting like these different ingredients, and like some of
Yes.
these ingredients are forbidden ingredients,
Yep.
and there's people. I can't remember if people are like actually actively being executed on the street, but there's heavy police presence everywhere, and yeah, it's like this very like authoritarian dystopian little city block that you're a part of in what seems to be like an alternative. I don't know if it's an alt timeline.
That's what I was
Um,
confused on. I don't know if it's an alt timeline, if you teleport into a different body and now you're playing as a different character or what. I like it, but I just didn't understand what happened there.
yeah, and we might just like not be remembering what exactly was going on there because at the
Yeah.
time I feel like I was understanding, but
Me too. I
now that
feel
I'm
the
like trying
same
to
way.
reflect back on it, like
It's kind of like being told to recite exactly what happens in Death Stranding to somebody, though. It's not going to happen.
yeah,
But I mean, this game,
exactly.
it goes between that, like you're in this underground city of cloned sisters, and then you're in like a very sterile, almost hospital-like environment where you're just going from one place to the other, doing task and task to task to task. And then all of a sudden you're thrust into this new version of this world where you're in like a city, like an urban style city where you're talking to a bartender and walking past a market and there's a murder and there's a cop trying to figure out who murdered somebody. And then there's the flashbacks, which show you a more familiar version of a world that we might know and live in.
Mhm.
And then there's like terrorist plots and resistance movements. And it's such a busy, ambitious game to somehow be filed down to a nice point. And I know I said it earlier, but I'm just really impressed that this indie developer could take all these themes and somehow circle them all back to on each other to make them cohesive. It's quite a feat, and it's really fun to play.
Yeah. It's such a beautiful example, and I know I've said this before in previous episodes, where the developers are very limited. In that limitation is so much of the beauty of what the game consists of. Right, you effectively have the same character model that needs to be split in a bunch of different variants, and there's you only have so many building blocks to tell your story, but like they only need so many because the vision's there.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's 6 to 1, hair to hair. It's just
yeah,
it's all about, I don't know, everything being the same but being completely different.
hmm
Going off track here, but I remember that scene as well where I can't remember, there's like some sort of disruption or something that like kind of knocks everybody over, and something that's as simple as like an earthquake or whatever happens, but like everyone's mask gets like cracked or damaged or knocked off, and
hmm
you're kind of walking through this scene where everyone's dying and or dead except for you. And I can't remember if that's just simply because your mask didn't get damaged or your mask didn't fall off, but
hmm
it just like shows just how incredibly fragile everything is.
yeah,
And I don't know, it was just such an accurate reflection of how things felt in the early 20s
yeah,
in real life, for sure. I was just like, oh, the entire species is brought down to its knees for something that no one understands and no one can really control.
yeah. And some of the flashbacks are some of my favorite parts of the game because that's when the meat of the personal stories. Well, I can't say that because I think that all the clones have their own personal stories too. But I mean, this is the foundation of why Iris, I think, is the Allmother's name. Why is Iris the way that she is? And she has that best friend who she's totally a dick to. I mean, the funniest part about this is that the main character of the game, or the main icon of the game, is just a complete psychopath almost.
Yeah.
They're just a terrible human, and I'm not sure, I can't remember the story of why Iris was chosen to be. Maybe she was like immune, or maybe she had some sort of, I think her parents signed her up for some sort of doctor visit, or maybe she had some sort of medical condition before the pandemic had hit. But Iris was chosen to basically be the clone experiment in this underground facility, and the doctors took her away. But before that, Iris was just a normal girl who was of Asian descent living in Canada and struggling to assimilate to Canadian culture and feeling different and isolated. And I know you and I joked about this like a couple weeks ago because I like eating things like pho or soup in the summertime, and you always make fun of me for it. But there's a scene in 1000xResist where this Asian parents immigrated to Canada, and they're having like the two parents are having a conversation with one another because the dad owns a ramen shop or a ramen coffee cart, or sorry, a ramen food cart in Canada, and nobody is buying the ramen in the summertime because they don't eat soup in the summertime in Canada.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, I'm sorry, like I can't make ends meet, but it's summertime and this Canadians don't buy soup." And so they're like dealing with that, and then I can only imagine what it's like to be the daughter of these immigrant parents, and maybe you've assimilated to the Canadian culture a little bit better than they have, but you still feel out of place. And she starts acting out and rebelling, but then her rebellion gets darker and weirder. Like there's a moment when I can't remember, you might remember more than me, Ryan, but there's a moment in the story where during a flashback you find out that Iris had put their cat or their guinea pig or something like that in a microwave and killed it. Do you remember this?
I don't.
Oh man, yeah, like Iris puts their pet in the microwave and like explodes it. And the parents are like, "What the hell are we gonna do with you? You just murdered the pet in a microwave." Like she starts getting like slowly she starts through treating her, and I'm not gonna remember her friend's name.
Is it Zhao or is
Zhao,
it
it
not
was Zhao. It was
Zhao?
Zhao, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
She treats Zhao so poorly and so psychopathically, and then slowly gets worse and worse with Zhao. And Zhao somehow just wants more and more to feel accepted by Iris. And then meanwhile, Iris is like putting animals in the microwave and then like runs off and becomes the all mother. It's like, Jesus Christ, what's happening in this game? I just remember feeling like I loved it and was just overwhelmed by it at the same time, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. The flashbacks were like, I remember you get taken back to that little like apartment or their home or that kitchen or that room
Yeah, they
or
live in
your
like a
bedroom.
tiny apartment.
Yeah. Super small little space there. And, she's regularly being taken away and escorted by the government that is escorting, all things medical to try and save humanity. And it just becomes like this very, I don't know. Yeah. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's very, I don't know. I'm like without words. There's so many aspects of this game that are hard to explain without experiencing it.
It's really true. And it has a way of being creepy but sci-fi and hopeful somehow. It feels like a hopeful game, but it's very somber in its hopefulness. I mean, it's a beautiful game. It's a complete work of art, and I loved most of my time with it. Outside of teleporting from the symbol to symbol in the air, whatever the hell that gameplay loop was. Besides that, it was great.
Yeah, and the hub design still bothers me. I try and look at it in a positive light, but I just remember I got to the end of the game. I'm like, oh, that's right. You have to go this weird way.
Yeah, the level design.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just for the hub area specifically. Everything else is fine.
yeah, I felt the same way. Breaking through the ceiling of the hub world towards the end was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was really cool. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I'm like watching the gameplay in the background. And I'm like, I'm still mad. It's like running. Spent so much time running around, going the wrong way.
Yeah.
Music, of course,
Oh my God, the music was
um,
incredible.
super good. Actually, what nationality is the dev team for this game?
Yeah, what was the name of the studio again?
It is Sunset Visitor.
Studio in Van. Oh, they're Canadian.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Just a quick side note. I really like the Sunset Visitor logo. It reminds me a little bit of the Hideo Kojima logo, but anime.
Yeah, I like it too.
Okay, so hold on. Sunset Visitor is an independent studio based in Vancouver, Canada, located on the unceded, ancestral, and occupied traditional lands of the Musqueam and Tsleil-Waututh. God damn it. I'm so sorry for not being able to pronounce these. Squamish nations of Coast Salish peoples. So these are like essentially Native American developers.
Are they actually native developers to that area, or is that like are they just residing on the land of the native?
Dedicated to telling diverse stories through the lens of speculative fiction, we are a group of majority Asian Canadian diaspora creators with a decade of experience in dance, theater, music, film, visual arts, and new media arts, bringing our background in the experimental performing arts to interactive media. Really cool background. And you can
Yeah,
tell actually
super unique.
now that they say that, you can see the dance, theater, music, and film visual arts stuff coming through in their games.
And if I'm not mistaken, there's actually like a theater scene in Thousand Times Resist where
Yeah,
like they have a play and it's like all set up and everyone has their parts and stuff, and then something horrific happens.
yeah.
Yeah, so they definitely put that in the game. And that's awesome that it comes from that background. Yeah, they focus on Cantonese Canadian narratives. That's so awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, it looks like 6 people.
Damn, that's all?
I think so.
Wow, that's even more impressive.
Yeah, and what they've created here is a game that's stuck with me for a year and almost a year and a half. It's one of those games that I'm probably going to think about, I don't know, maybe for forever. I can't, there's some games that just stick with you, and this is definitely one of them. And I'm really
Yeah.
excited to see what they come up with next. I don't really have a lot more to say about this game because it's been so long since I've played it, but I highly encourage anybody listening to this, if you haven't, and if you made it this far through all these spoilers, then what are you doing? Go play the game. Just go check it out because it's great.
Yeah. This is one that I had in the back of my mind throughout last year and didn't get around to. And I'm super glad that I did. And I think if you're somebody who enjoys or somebody who has enjoyed the Nier games, while they're definitely not character action games at all, I think you get a lot of the same feels, a lot of the same vibes from something like this.
Yeah. Did I tell you that I started playing Nier?
I don't think so.
I'm probably maybe 10 hours into it. I need to get back into it after Crimson Desert, hopefully. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Dang. Well, yeah. I mean, if you end up rolling credits on that one, I'd certainly love to have that talk because, yeah, still to this day, one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, you want to talk about a soundtrack for the ages? Oh,
Yeah.
so good. But yeah, I'm kind of with you. I've kind of ran out of things to say about 1000xResist. I wish I would have been a little bit faster on playing this one, so we could have had a more well thought out and more recent, fresher take on the game, because it definitely deserves more than I was able to deliver
Yeah.
as far as commentary goes. But yeah, awesome game.
Yeah, it is. I love this game, and I do, even without editing, I need to apologize to Sunset Visitor because you guys truly created a work of art. It's a unique game, unlike I know that it borrowed from themes from a lot of games, but it's unlike anything I've ever played. And I feel like even without editing this episode, I can tell that you and I did a lot of talking about this game. What do I want to say? We talked around the edges of this game, whereas usually when you and I talk about a game, we dive fairly deep into exactly what we liked, exactly what we didn't, the story beats, and I feel like this conversation was a lot of sort of vagary, and I feel bad about that. But that's just kind of how it goes sometimes. We needed to record an episode. We had wanted to talk about this. We weren't going to both replay the game, and that's just how things were flowing today.
Yep.
But man, love this game.
And we got one more game to talk about
That's right.
real quick. This is probably going to be a naturally short conversation. And as anybody who's listened to any of our previous episodes knows, please, please, please play the games that we're about to talk about, and especially the really short experiences that the less you know, the more impactful it is. Same goes for 1000xResist, right? The less you know about a lot of these narrative driven games or kind of experiences rather. It's almost hard to call them games at times when it's so much more of an experience. But the last one that we have for this episode was And Roger.
That's right.
This is a game that popped into my feed several times. Super short experience, a very unique experience, and it's one that hit me a lot harder than I ever thought that it would. I'm not going to put a rating on And Roger because I don't think it makes sense to.
I agree with that actually.
Yeah, maybe that's not fair, but I don't know. I don't think it really makes sense to put a score on every game, especially when it's more of an experience like this one is.
Yeah, I mean this is a point and click game. It takes you an hour and a half to get through. So it would be
Yeah.
weird to put a score on this game. I agree with that.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a point and click animated experience that certainly made me reflect on how I felt as a child dealing with some of these similar experiences when it comes to folks who have amnesia or
Dementia.
dementia, sorry. Yeah, not amnesia is the wrong word, isn't it?
Yeah, amnesia I believe is a different thing, but it's similar. It's memory loss, you know.
Right. Sorry. So anyways, And Roger is basically the Born Identity movie in like an hour. And you should really check it out.
Yep.
You'll stab somebody with a ballpoint pen. No.
Yeah. Exactly.
No, but getting back on track, and Roger was a game that kind of made me reflect back to my early childhood in a way in which kind of made me feel like a piece of shit, but also just kind of like shed a lot more light on someone else's life and perspective. Growing up, I had really elderly grandparents who were in and out of the hospital all the time, and they were never able to remember my name. They would always call me a different name that wasn't anywhere close to my name. And as a kid growing up, I was like, old people are the worst. That was kind of like my that was kind of my take on old people. I was just like, man, they don't remember your name. They don't know who you are. Other people's, grandparents are younger and normal and not old and not frail and don't have dementia. And so, yeah, for a long time, I just genuinely did not like old people. And it's like a really weird thing to kind of like look back on, especially for something that, somebody can't control. Like, I'm sure there's some way that you can live your life in which creates a situation where you're less likely to get dementia. Like I hear, keeping your mind active and solving puzzles and just not sitting and rotting is a big aspect of that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and so by the time I rolled credits on this game, I was pretty emotional, and it was a really good way to retroactively see from the perspective of my grandparents and kind of like what they were dealing with. And similar to this short story or short experience, I had a lot of frustration towards them for kind of all the same reasons that the character in the game is frustrated with the person who has amnesia. And you just don't realize how incredibly difficult like the most simplistic things are or could be for somebody who struggles with that every day. My dad's who was it? My dad's stepmom towards the end of her life after her husband, my dad's dad, passed away. You know, at the very end, she genuinely thought my dad was her husband who had passed away years before, and like, you know, she would get like flirty with my dad and like super weird stuff like that, and just kind of watching that level of deterioration was kind of, you know, just weird and difficult. And so, anyways, having an experience that touches on this in a very relatable way on a personal level, but also just on a kind of powerful, and yeah, I don't know. This one definitely hit home, and I didn't expect it. I really had no idea what this game was. It was just like overwhelmingly positive on Steam, highly recommended. I think I got it on sale for like $3 and was kind of left with one of those similar to 1000xResist, where I'm like, I'm going to probably think about this game or this experience for the rest of my life, just because it just kind of hit. Yeah. And Roger. Oh, and my dad's name's Roger, for whatever that's worth. Has nothing to do. He doesn't have dementia, and it doesn't have anything to do with anything. But
Yeah, dementia is one of those things that is really hard to empathize with unless you've witnessed it. You know, one of the big things we give a lot of weight to in this society is cancer, right? Everybody knows somebody who's died of cancer and watched them go through that and the suffering. You know, I have, and it's terrible. But dementia is one of those things where I think that anybody who hasn't experienced a loved one going through it, like let's say you're a kid, I'm just being hypothetical here, and your dad died of cancer. And then another kid at school says, well, oh man, that sucks. My dad has dementia. You as a kid might look at that other kid and say, well, at least your dad, like, oh, your dad can't remember your name all the time, but at least he's still here. But once you watch someone go through dementia, you realize that in some ways it's worse. I'm not saying it's worse in every way. Every form of dying earlier than you should have is terrible in some way or another. But watching someone deteriorate slowly through dementia is truly heartbreaking over and over and over again, and helpless because they are almost there, but they're just not there. I had someone, I wouldn't say necessarily close to me, but I own a coffee shop. That's what I do for my day job, and I had a customer who came through, and she would come in every single day, and I only knew her as someone who had dementia. She found my coffee shop while having dementia, and she would come through every single morning, every day, and she was just a huge handful, and I loved her so much, even though she was a handful. And every morning she was the first I live alone, you know, so she was the first human that I talked to for years, and then I just watched her deteriorate and deteriorate and deteriorate. And she was so eccentric and energetic, and she loved hugs, and she was just insane. It's just really hard to deal with. And customers knew her, and customers kind of knew the deal that when they came to my coffee shop, that they would just see her there, and there she was, and she was just going to be trying to give them a hug and talking. And I was driving to the coffee shop one day, and there she was walking down the street in August in a sweater, like dehydrated, and I had to pick her up, and she was trying to walk to my coffee shop from her house, which was miles away. And yeah, and then one day she couldn't come in anymore. I just watched her deteriorate, and you know, she went to the hospital, and I visited her a couple times, and she was just like, she reminded me a lot of somebody dying of cancer, to be honest, except for worse, because she didn't understand what was happening to her. She just deteriorated and eventually passed away. And that was really, really sad. And one of the moments I remember was she was standing in my coffee shop, and somebody came in who hadn't seen her in like 10 years. And this woman, I'm not going to say her name, but this woman who passed away from dementia was like a yoga instructor. And this other woman who came in and recognized her was one of her old yoga, I don't know, clients. Used to go to a yoga class, and said, oh my gosh, so and so, I haven't seen you in so long. And for one moment, the woman who had dementia like snapped out of it and was her old self again. And it was a wild thing to watch, where she just automatically, was really quickly, boom, she's her old self. She's there, she's talking to her for probably 30 seconds, and then she was gone again. And then the woman who was talking to her looked at her strange and was like, wait, and then slowly had that realization that this woman isn't who she remembered anymore, and she's someone else, and she's what someone else might dismiss as crazy or lost her mind or something like that. She's actually just sick, you know. And that was an emotional moment too, and I think about that customer a lot. And you don't realize how much a game like this is going to hit you until you've experienced something like that firsthand. And I don't necessarily want to compare my experience with a customer to your experience with your grandparents, but it's just like once you have that firsthand experience with someone with dementia, you realize how sinister of and heartbreaking of a thing that it is. And this game captured that extremely well.
Yeah, it's and I don't think any individual experience is worth more or less than any other. But yeah, I'll never forget being so frustrated and like so mad, at my family members that had it. Like I was just as a child, of course, as a child,
Yeah, you were really
you don't
young.
get it.
You were like,
You
well,
don't
how
get
old
it.
were you? You were like 5 or 10.
Yeah, I mean, I think pretty much all of my grandparents were dead, midway through high school. So most of my experiences with them while they were still up and moving was, yeah, in between the ages of like 5 and 10,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just all I could remember them for was nothing but negative things,
Mm-hmm.
unfunctional things, and kind of having that reflect in the story was tough. And I'm not like, oh, like, I should have been better because I was a kid, I was an idiot. But yeah, it's certainly paints a different picture looking back on everything.
Yeah. And what did you think of this overall story of Anne Roger itself? Did you like it? Did you think that it took the right turns? It did a pretty good subversion of expectations in the intro when you think that maybe this is going to be a story about a child being sexually abused,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, because at the beginning, that's exactly it. You really think that this is in a lot darker place to start off, but really it's just a very accurate reflection of an adult who becomes a child again. As you get older, people always say the older you get, the more everyone's wiping your ass, and you're basically a baby all over again. There's a lot of truth to that, especially with dementia. Yeah, just not recognizing very recognizable things, because the lens is just so distorted. Yeah, I mean, I liked where it went. It was kind of like, let's keep this woman who has dementia around as many familiar things as possible, keeping her out of an old folks home, regretting the physical abuse that this woman went through that had dementia, like all of these, and not saying like I was a child or any of my family members were like actively abusing somebody who had this illness, but
No, it happens. It happens a lot.
it does.
Nurses,
Yeah.
and I mean, I visit like that customer that I visited in her nursing home. It was not a good place to be. And in fact, I was talking to some people about this, and I guess once you have dementia and once you get admitted to a home, basically, you die within a year. I think most dementia patients don't make it more than 12 months after being admitted just because of how bad those places usually are. And I'm not saying that it's like necessarily all the medical practitioner's fault. I just think that it's when you're surrounded by all those people who have those problems and an exhausted and underpaid staff, and it smells like, urine and heartache in there. It's I feel like I lost years of my life just from the time that I went in there and visited her.
Yeah.
Man, I feel bad saying that. And shout out to all the nurses in this world. I understand how hard of a job you have, but it is inherently a bad place to be and doesn't necessarily promote healing. And the sad truth is these people, they can't heal. It's terminal. So they're at the end of their life by definition in these places. So
And I think one of the biggest things that keeps anybody going, regardless of having that illness, is familiarity and being
yeah.
recognizing things and being around people who you at least once knew, if don't any longer remember. I think all of those things are so important. I remember when Star Wars Episode 3 came out, and I was watching it in theaters for the first time when I was a kid, and the Padme ends up dying, and the robot medic goes, she's seemingly lost the will to live, but
Mhm.
I think whether it's humans or animals, that there's all sorts of documented cases of this living being is so depressed and so out of its element that it just like gives up, and like it could live longer, but it just, again, it loses the will to live. And
Yeah.
I remember at the time I was like, oh, that's so cheesy, like that's so dumb, like what a easy way to end a character arc or whatnot. But there's a lot of there's a lot of real things about that. You just kind of wilt and die with no familiarity and nothing to draw connections to. So
Yeah.
and I would imagine with all the people who are in these facilities and stuff, that it is very much so an additional contributing factor to that 1 year of them on average, passing away.
Yeah, and Roger seemed to tell this really beautiful story of a couple falling in love, and then eventually one of the partners gets dementia and sort of falls through these bright and dark spots. and has little fun gameplay elements to it, the point and click style, but sort of with a twist of trying to figure out what to click and where and little puzzles to solve. And it does a good job of kind of keeping it interesting. The art style was beautiful. The music was good. And my only major complaint with the game, and I came into this feeling like I was going to criticize it more until you and I got into some weird, heavy conversations about our personal experience with dementia.
Hmm.
And I find myself more forgiving of it now. But there was some, and to anybody out there listening, I'm really neutral. I try to be live and let live. I'm personally not a very religious man, and there's a lot of religious sort of overtones kind of forced on you in this game a little bit, specifically with the Bible verse at the end of the game. What'd you think of that?
What do you remember what the verse was? I'd have to look it up.
I'm going to look it up because I know it's the one where it's like God gave us this, this, and this. It's like faith, hope, and love, and the greatest of these is love, or something like that. Whatever that verse.
Let's see. Okay, yeah. So here's the verse.
Okay,
And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love.
right.
And I didn't have a problem with this just because the messaging in the last sentence is just so rock solid. I mean, I just think that that verse is solid. You know?
Yeah. So okay, so let me go through this really quickly. And so number one, faith, hope, love is just kind of like it's a funny meme of like the thing that Gen X and millennial moms put in their kitchen. It's
Yeah.
like a little sign that says faith, hope, love in cursive, right? It's
Mhm.
like you get it at IKEA or Target, and it's kind of silly. That is kind of a meme to me. So putting that at the end of such a serious game with a good message was sort of strange. And I would love to interview the developer and ask them why they would put that there. Now, the greatest of these is love. Like, yeah, love and those moments of human empathy and compassion are it's like the one thing keeping me going right now in life. So
Right.
after all the things we've gone through since 2016 to now, and like, everything that you and I as elder millennials have experienced in our lives. I mean, we watched the towers fall when we were just kids. We watched our friends go off to war. All that stuff. Those little human moments of love it reminds me why this earth, this world, this human experience is worth participating in.
Mhm.
And I want to just really quickly tie it back to the customer that I have that used to come through the coffee shop before she passed. The thing I left out of that story is that she had nobody in her life, nobody taking care of her. She was elderly. She was in her early 70s. The only person who took care of her was her brother, and her brother was also a regular at my coffee shop. And he dedicated his life to taking care of her, and he never gave up on her, and would be embarrassed when she would make a scene and be apologetic and stuff, but he wasn't even equipped to deal with what he was dealing with. He just had to, and he did it with love, and it was really beautiful to see. And so the end, the greatest of these is love. That is beautiful. But I think that there was a way that they could say that without it having to be necessarily religious. Now, I'm saying this as a not religious man. If you are a devout Christian and you play this game, then that probably hits way harder for you. And, good on you. That's okay. It's just for me, as someone who's not religious, I was like, wait, why are we taking this really beautiful message and then kind of making it inextricable with religion when we could have just made it this beautiful isolated message that didn't have to be tied back to religion?
Yeah, with I didn't have a problem with it because I don't know. I think I was just so emotionally overcome at the moment that it doesn't matter where it came from because the messaging was still just spot on, especially for the ending of the game. And and because and I know this is probably the wrong way of reading the verse, but and now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. It's like, well, yeah, I totally agree with that because like faith and hope can be complete bullshit. And that's and I think that's why I like the verse so much is because I'm not really that on board with the first sentence. The second sentence is where it hits because it's
Yeah.
like faith can be an absolute fool's errand and hope doubly so or just as much so, right? So I don't know. How I come away with that is only something as strong as love would be able to have this story end the way that it does. And I'm sure this is probably a solo developer or a very, very small team that all have the same religious mindset. Putting this at the end of their game was just icing on the cake for them. And if that's the case, then good on them. I would imagine it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was that last sentence just hits when it comes to the aspect of life where you just have to be absolute, like a servant to to people who are in need.
Yep, I feel the same way. And like I said, I came into this conversation feeling a bit more harsh on it, and then after you and I both sort of went through our experiences, our personal experiences with dementia, I felt a bit softer on that creative decision. And yeah, it's a beautiful game. I didn't going from 1000xResist conversation to both trauma dump our experience with terminal illness was not. I didn't expect that to go this way, but hey, Digital C podcast. You never know which way the tide is turning.
Yeah. And like you said at the very beginning of this episode, wide is a puddle and deep is deep is the ocean, and that is Digital C. Unless it's a weak ass puddle, in which case I want a different water word.
Yeah, pond.
Yeah. Wait. Yeah.
Well, weaker than puddle.
Well, I don't know. It's like I don't know where I was going with that.
Tittle.
A piddle. As wide as a piddle, as deep as a dumpster. But yeah. I mean, that's I really like this episode because it's. I feel like a lot of times we're much more prepared or on point or on track, and this one we just kind of went with the waves.
Yeah, I like our episodes where we just kind of go for it. It's fun. I'm not sure what our viewership will think of it, our listenership, but our huge following.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I was checking out some stats, and our games that made us feel something in 2025 episode is by far our least listened to episode on the RSS feed,
Mhm.
but it is by far the most watched episode on YouTube, which I thought was kind of interesting.
I would just assume that it's like the least viewed, watched, listened to, whatever episode period because it's so damn long.
It's doing great on YouTube. I'm not sure if it's because the short that you edited was good and brought people in or what, or the algorithm likes it, but not many people like it. Really quickly, as we're wrapping up here, would you like to guess what our most viewed podcast episode on the RSS feed is this year? What our most streamed episode is?
Oh, can you quickly tell me the episodes?
Ryan, your co-host. What are you talking about? You know all the episodes.
Okay, Claire Obscure.
Name them all. Yep, that was one.
Claire Obscure. These are not going to be in order, by the way, because I'm just going to try and memory dump as many as I can. Claire Obscure.
All you do is show up.
Bloomin'.
Right, yep.
Bloomin' Rage.
Yep.
Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Death Stranding. Death Stranding 2.
Yep.
Silent Hill 2 remake.
Yep.
Oh, Dispatch.
Yep. You're missing you're missing
Probably missing like
two.
2.
Oh, 3. Remember more spook season?
Oh, geez. Alan Wake 2. Ugh. Oh, geez.
Yeah, you wanted to forget.
Yeah. No, I probably would have like actually forgot that episode entirely if you wouldn't have said something.
I want to go back and listen to it. Then there's 2 more. One that we just mentioned, which is games that made us feel something, and then you're missing 1. Come on.
Oh, man, I'm sorry. I've not grabbed my phone to look at my GG app of games that we've completed. I'm doing this completely off the top of my head.
Female protagonist.
Oh, wait, no, we didn't do a South of Midnight dedicated episode, so it's not that.
She's Celtic.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. Senua's Sacrifice. Or sorry, Senua's Saga or whatever they named it. Yep. Sorry.
Yeah, Senua's Saga. Yep, those are all 9 of our episodes.
I didn't do too bad.
It wasn't too bad. So if I didn't, so for anyone listening, I'm the one who does all the editing of the episodes themselves, and then Ryan does all the video editing, and he edits the shorts and uploads stats and manages social media and stuff like that. So we divide work pretty evenly. So if I didn't do all the editing and then I had to relay what all episodes we've done, it's really hard for me to do. In fact, if I'll go pop on one of our old recordings, I have no idea what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
Just like, I'm listening to this episode for the first time.
Yeah.
What are these guys going to talk about?
Yeah. I love that for us.
But okay, so out of all 9 episodes that you just listed, what do you think has the most streams?
Ooh.
And it's by a lot. It's by like 50% over our second most streamed.
I want it to be Silent Hill 2, but I don't think it is.
No, Silent Hill 2 is our 4th lowest streamed.
And if it was Alan Wake 2, I'd just be mad.
It's tied with Silent Hill 2.
Or it's tied with Alan. Oh, Alan Wake 2 is tied with Silent Hill 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. My real guess was, well, no, I don't know. Yeah, no, my real guess would have been Silent Hill 2 because I just felt like we were on that one, but
We were. Our most streamed by a lot is Death Stranding 2.
I just wouldn't have guessed.
Yeah, I mean, either our second most, and it's kind of tied, is Senua's Saga and Clair Obscur.
Huh. I mean, Claire makes sense because it was, like without a doubt the game of the year from just about everybody last year.
Yeah, but Death Stranding 2 has almost double the streams.
Hmm.
Yeah, we have let's see, streams coming in from all over the world. Shout out Vietnam, we know you're listening. Thank you. Shout out Singapore, I know you're listening. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then lots of other random really cool countries. It's just fun to see people coming in from mostly outside of the United States. I love that. So thanks for being a part of this. We have a lot of fun with it, and you guys are all great.
We love you.
Yeah. Any final thoughts?
Can't wait for the next one. Well, I tried.
Do it really softly and quiet.
So I can't.